I mean, it's a thing. It's a process. It's not, if you didn't know the concept, sometimes I think that people think it's really weird music. And it definitely has a different vibe. A lot of searching, It's like there's nothing, again, there's not a pop song that we're playing for everybody, except for we're making a pop song up. There's a whole game to it. There's an arc to the process, and I'm the facilitator of the arc.
Here we are on the Weird Music Podcast with the conductor of Everyone Orchestra, Matt Butler. Matt, man, great to have you on here. Just had an amazing time at summer camp's 20th year this past weekend. Got to see Everyone Orchestra on the Moonshine stage. That was insane. Matt, starting this off, I want to talk about the magic of improvisational music.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest parts about Everyone Orchestra, just how free and kind of uncalculated it is, and I want to hear from you. What's your take on improvisational music, and why do you think it's something that all of us jam band fans just are so into?
Well, music has a way of connecting in every single form that it's made, right? It connects people through and collectively experiencing it together, kind of feeling connected, I think is kind of like the basis of a lot of spirituality, and gives us meaning and purpose, and makes it okay to be alive in this sometimes painful yet joyous world, and I think the thing about improv that I think it brings people really to the moment, and to be present in the moment in a way that makes that experience like even deeper and meaningful. Yeah, that's the main thing for me. I mean, like as from a musician standpoint, when everybody is really communicating and really present, that's just kind of the beautiful moment that I'm like looking to be a part of and looking to create. And I think personally, it makes me feel the most, like, kind of fills me with joy. It fills up my soul. It's kind of like the lifeblood. And it's really interesting now. I mean, I've only conducted a handful of Everyone Orchestras this year, which is not my normal, and it's a really palpable infusion of energy for my soul each time I play. I mean, it always is, but right now, when it's so far and few between, I mean, I'm still like buzzing from this weekend of music for sure, and getting to the music this weekend was not an easy task. Like, emotionally, it's like, every musician is going through a struggle of, should I be gathering people? And also Everyone Orchestra is bringing together different musicians from different bands on stage, so it's like we couldn't do it on the Soulshine stage. It was just too small. The band would be like on top of each other, like breathing in each other's faces for 90 minutes. I'm like, this is way worse than the Red Barn, we got to change it. So I was really thankful that we got it moved to Moonshine. But yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of improv for me, is just like, it's that it forces people to be present and, communicating on a level that starts to be, I feel like, really deep and meaningful.
Oh, man, I love that answer. Being at a show, like you said it best, it's such a palpable infusion of spirit, honestly. Yeah. So I want to dive a little deeper. I know you have a background, not just as a conductor, like you're a drummer. You've been in dead bands. So, from a musician's perspective, what is that like mind state that you approach improvisation with?
Specifically with Everyone Orchestra, because it's a little bit different when I'm sitting at the drum kit and, I'm not conducting, but I'm drumming. I would say that the drummer kind of drives in a lot of ways where an improv will go if there's no one else conducting. Even if there's a lead person in the band, like, the kick, snare, and hi-hat really are pretty demanding tools. But, when I approach improvisation with Everyone Orchestra, I'm really trying to approach it with a real clean slate. Like, the big part of my job is to get everybody to get on stage, and really the only expectation being that we're going to work as a team to create beautiful music. Not like, I really want this out of this band. I really want to do this type of song or groove or whatever, It's like this kind of like blank state. We all agree that we all agree that we don't know where we're going to go, but we're going to go somewhere. And and as we get as the band kind of warms up and gets into a really good groove, it can go anywhere, and everybody's pretty much down. So, I feel like just having like an openness, is a real part of that. It's just an openness to whatever is going to happen. There are no mistakes. Maybe not listening is a mistake. So but really the idea that everyone's going to be okay with where we take it, and let's go for it.
How, if at all, like, have psychedelics influenced yourself as a listener, as a musician, with not only the way you take in music, but also the way you view creating music?
I would say that there are many different ways of getting to like a state of bliss, right? And psychedelics is like different ways of, each psychedelic has its own kind of pathway of getting there, and I think that you can have a very psychedelic musical experience without being on psychedelics. If you just ride what's going on musically, if you just cosmically, you just like attach yourself to it and go. I think that psychedelics are conducive to musical experience, especially from the listener, because it allows you to focus in a different way than when you're not on psychedelics. And, your openness, you're kind of like, you've got that wide open state that's unique, that's not just your normal sober self. LSD definitely shaped the Grateful Dead scene. It definitely, like, culturally, it made the Grateful Dead scene what it was. It gave the backbone to everything else that came out of it. And it was that openness, that people were arriving for, that communal experience, that it wasn't like they weren't there to hear the songs played exactly like, they heard on the album. They were there to be with their friends. They were there to hear the band explore the songs. And it was, it's a little bit more like a church kind of situation, without the religion aspect, but just kind of like the communal spiritual aspect is totally there. So I think the psychedelics can enhance that particular piece when applied kind of appropriately. I think it can be abused and be off balance. And if it's too much, especially from the musician standpoint, if somebody's too high, they're not connected with what's going on in the audience or in the moment, and are having their own experience that might be great, but sometimes that doesn't connect you with people. That just kind of puts you by yourself. And especially if you're on stage, sometimes if somebody's like, oh, they're not really here with us, it's like that could be really effective. So it's like, I think that it could go either way from a performer standpoint if someone's going to do psychedelics and play.
I love how we keep coming back to this word openness.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you, why is it somewhat essential for a performer, for a musician, for an artist to have a degree of vulnerability?
I just think that vulnerability, it brings out like an empathic kind of connection to the listener. And that in itself is kind of like an open channel of communication, right? And I think that, like, when someone shows vulnerability, they open up to you in a way that can make you want to be vulnerable with them, kind of. And I think that's the foundation of like trust, right? So, and I think that's a really big part of Everyone Orchestra is like, and like part of my job of recruiting people to come play with me, is to get people to, it's a very vulnerable state. They're up there. I mean, if I wanted to fuck with them musically, I could fuck with them musically and ruin it, and I've actually, like, I've been conducted by people that I feel like I've almost been violated, like they're only thinking about their own, like what they want out of it, and as a conductor, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to facilitate whatever is supposed to emerge, and focus on everybody getting a chance to be, to shine and doing what they do best, and to kind of facilitate that group listening experience. So, and it requires you to be vulnerable. And I think some of the best musicians on Everyone Orchestra stage basically have that, they're fearlessly vulnerable. And yeah. I would say that I think that that's kind of what, like, Fish does really, really well. I feel like, in kind of a blatant way, I feel like Trey is just like, he's just out there, and everything he's got is right there. It's like there's no no other agenda going on. He's just like, here I am,
Mm.
you know, and
Yeah.
that's why people love it, you know, and why it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
So it's a
Inspiring.
crucial element.
I am extremely inspired, like regardless of if I even appreciate the music itself, just a live performer wearing their heart in their sleeve, being vulnerable, like putting it all out there, just music aside, that is just so freaking inspiring. And yeah, I mean, that goes with the set of Everyone Orchestra. Not that I've seen a less than stellar set, but if there were to be one, I think you'd still, pass the taste test, so to speak.
I mean, it's a thing. It's a process. It's not, you know, if you didn't know the concept, sometimes I think people think it's really weird music, and it definitely has a different vibe. A lot of searching, you know. It's like there's nothing. Again, there's not a pop song that we're playing for everybody, except for we're making a pop song up. You know, there's a whole game to it. So, you know, there's an arc to the process, and I'm the facilitator of the arc.
Mm.
Beginning, middle, and end, and try to like make it just feel like it was a nugget.
I want to ask one question. Like Kanika Moore was crushing the vocals. Are all the lyrics fully improvised, or what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I like that. Yeah, fully improvised. And I gotta say,
Damn.
like, Kanika, the way she, you know, I have this whole dialogue with the people that are all the musicians, but the lyricists, all you know, especially, I'm like, all right, I'll look over at them. I'm ready to sing. And, you know, Kanika, I'm like, are you ready? And she's like, you know, and then she just goes and it works every fucking time. You know, it's like, you know, sometimes she has used like a diary, like she just has a book of ideas, you know, and I'm totally down for whatever, you know, for people to like do that. But most of it's like it's not, none of the lyrics are really preconceived. You know, I think prior to the show, I'm like, look, let's not sing about COVID. We could sing about everything around COVID, but let's just not sing about it. I might say something that might be heavy about COVID later in the set or something, but let's not sing about it. Let's like be fun and light and just really celebrate the moment, you know. And everybody was absolutely on board. But when you're like, you know, you're making up improv lyrics, you're just pulling things out of the ethers of what's going on, you know. So it's like you just say what's going on. So, you know, I didn't want to get up and just be like, I can't believe I'm here. Holy shit, I made this. You guys aren't wearing masks. I'm really scared. I'm so happy to play music. Holy fuck, we're here. You know, it's like I didn't want to do that. I had to like remind myself not to. Okay.
All right, Matt, I want to transition this to talking about summer camp itself. You are definitely a tradition of summer camp. Like every year, I'm looking forward to seeing the Everyone Orchestra set there. So summer camp, like it's 20th year. I think you'd be a great person to ask, like, what about summer camp has really allowed it to emerge as something so great and have such sustained success?
You know, I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. You know, I think there's a lot of festivals across the US that had their own identifiable beginnings that they died out. They've been pushed out by big festivals. You know, they had to change locations. They didn't have good leadership. The bands that were in charge of it, like, just, you know, kind of dwindled, you know. And I think it's really a combination of the integrity and quality of what Humphreys McGee and what Mo produce, along with you know, Ian and Jay Goldberg. I think that it's like a really good kind of match of being able to create something that really reflects a broader community that's beyond Humphreys, is beyond Mo, but give a chance for the communities around those bands to celebrate those bands and experiment and see all these other bands too. And then like to bring in these, like, you know, huge acts that bring people completely from a different world. And there's just so much to do there. It's a large community, you know. So I think it's really hard to sustain the size and the breadth of what they've created, but it's really going well. That's all I can say. It just feels like it's vibrant, and why people go to summer camp, they deliver exactly, you know. And it's, I don't know, I just feel like it's got a little bit it's got a little something for everybody, you know. And I think that for the older set that are in the RVs and in the VIP tent, they're kind of like, you know, continuing their festival experience, but they're not willing to sleep in the forest, you know, with the kids, you know. And the kids are like getting their communities together, having their bonding, you know, experiences. That it's just great. It's just a total. And you know, Soul Shine and Soul Patch, it's like you look at what's developing there, it's super cool, and it's very grassroots. It's not an AEG, you know, Live Nation kind of event, and they do great events too. But it's like these are like, you know, the reason why Soul Patch and Soul Shine works is because, you know, as Vanessa Robinson, like, you know, partnering with Ian and everybody, but owning that area, building the team, and their heart and soul is in it. And you don't get that at a lot of places, you know. On the West Coast, I mean, Burning Man is really an anomaly to itself, but that's all about personal ownership of your space and like sharing with people. And Oregon Country Fair, High Sierra, these are all kind of like, you know, grassroots festivals that have been going on for years that kind of exhibit similar types of success in their own way. And, you know, I think summer camp, just being kind of in the middle of that area, you know, which I'm not that familiar with the area. I've toured through there many, many times, but, you know, I just feel like they deliver what the kids and the adults and the music lovers, you know, within a 5-6 hour radius, what they want, you know. It's really cool. And to be turned on to some crazy shit like Tipper and 3-6 Mafia, it's really cool. And then, you know, Mo gets to do their thing, and it's all good. And it's not all good this summer camp.
My last question I want to ask you. So
Yeah.
talking about summer camp specifically, like for anyone on the outside looking in, how would you describe the grandeur that is summer camp? And from your own experience, you know, how would you describe that music festival experience to someone who's just never had it yet?
You know, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question. I mean, it's like, it's not a pleasure cruise. You have to work pretty hard. Like the participants, people that are camping there, it's a lot of work to be there, you know. Just taking care of your own personal whatever. It's like, you know, carrying your water, building your tent, whatever. It's like there's a lot of physical walking to the stages and finding your friends and logisticating, and you know. And I think that it's a little bit like a kind of like a, you know, it's a journey for everybody. Everybody has their own journey when they go and they experience a festival, you know. I got there Friday night, you know, and then obviously was there till I left Monday after at the end. But I was just thinking about the people that arrived Thursday morning and were camping all that whole time, you know. And in my 20s, I would have done that, you know. And you know, think about the bond you have with your peeps, and all the different conversations around all the different bands. I mean, it's like it's an opportunity to really build community and to bond and to kind of commune, you know. And we don't get a commune in that way enough, especially now, you know, with COVID. But I think in general, I feel like there's a lot of barriers to communing in this kind of open way, and it's a really, I think it's a non-dogmatic kind of way to commune. That's why I love music, how it brings people together of all different types, you know. And in this world that's so divisive and stuff, it's like just to take a break from anything that's going to divide us and just enjoy something that we all enjoy, I think helps us live in a peaceful world. So I don't know if I answered your question, because the words that kept on coming to mind were like, you know, hot, dusty, and then maybe rain, you know, as far as summer camp. And I thought I was going to be a lot more intense weather-wise in August. And it was actually probably one of the nicest weather fucking summer camp I've ever been to. And they had the water trucks battening the dust down. I mean, and the EO set was cranking hot. I almost passed out at one point. I was like, oh my God, I feel lightheaded. I got to cool my body down right now, you know. And I had been singing and jumping around, and I took my jacket off because I was just like, I started to bake. But you know, I think that it's worth the effort.
It's
Definitely
a
worth
lot
the
of
effort.
effort, which means
Yeah.
that's a large statement. But yeah, you know, I always say, you know, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Matt, man, you know, thank you for all you do, keeping the the spirit of, you know, this free form cathartic music alive. There's nothing else that I've seen like what you do, and man, we love it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
dude. I
for
appreciate it.
freaking the way you approach things, your creativity and energy on stage. Like we were talking about before, it's inspiring unto of itself, just the energy that you carry on stage. And man, I'm so glad we got to have this conversation, Matt.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it. You be well.
You too. I'll see you on tour.
All right. Peace.
Thank you for listening. Shout out to the sponsor, SEM Tickets. We love y'all. We'll see you real soon. And I want to give one more big shout out to Ohio's own Sacred Harvest Music Festival. Octave Cat with Eli from Dopapod, Jesse from Lotus, Cheesecake with Hauser and Chucky Love, Bacano, Sub T. We'll be there the last weekend of September and hope to see you there as well. Much love, y'all.